Representative Morales is here. It's House Bill 5652. It's an act related to state affairs and government, Rhode Island Sanctuary State Act. It designates schools, places of worship, and courts as sensitive locations and would require that a judicial warrant be obtained before federal immigration authorities could be granted access to those premises to enforce, I assume, United States immigration laws. Representative Morales, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I want to thank you all again for the opportunity to discuss and consider House Bill 5652. In summary, this bill, as stated by the chairman, would designate schools, health facilities, places of worship, and courts as sensitive locations that would require a judicial warrant before federal immigration authorities can be granted access to those premises to enforce federal immigration laws. Furthermore, local and state law enforcement agencies would be prohibited from cooperating with federal immigration authorities to enforce such immigration laws, with limited exceptions. Such exceptions would include a response to terrorism, domestic violence, or national security threats. Evidently, we would reallocate the use of our public funds and the priorities of our local law enforcement to instead focus on the more pressing issues affecting the quality of life in our communities. Currently, there are an estimated 29,000 undocumented immigrants living across our state, with at least 18,000 citizens living with at least one family member who is undocumented. And our undocumented community is diverse, and they come from all walks of life, from the Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Portugal, Cambodia, and Colombia. Similar to any citizens, they are workers, family members, business owners, taxpayers, and a vital part of our economy. Just this past year alone, undocumented immigrants contributed more than $30 million in taxes to the Rhode Island economy. These tax contributions were as follows: $17.6 million in sales tax, $3.9 million in income tax, and $9.7 million in property taxes. All that to say, it is our undocumented community that helps subsidize and fund parts of our state and local budgets in order to fund the programs that most of our communities depend on. Now, I understand there is a general misconception that undocumented immigrants receive government subsidies and handouts by taking advantage of the system. However, that is entirely false. I want to be clear, undocumented immigrants are not eligible, nor do they receive any public assistance from our state or federal government. In other words, they do not receive Medicaid, food stamps, housing assistance, Social Security income, or welfare cash assistance, despite contributing the tax revenue needed to fund these public benefit programs in the first place. Therefore, when we criminalize these working people that are trying their hardest to provide for themselves and their families, all under the radar, we are actively harming our own economy. Evidently, data-driven studies have shown that local areas with sanctuary-like type policies that do not criminalize undocumented immigrants simply due to their status have healthier economies, from higher median incomes, higher labor force participation, less poverty, and lower unemployment levels. This is especially important during these times, as it has often been undocumented immigrants who have been risking their health on the front lines as low-wage, essential workers, helping keep our economy afloat while providing us with the necessary resources we've needed throughout COVID. Furthermore, several studies have noted that areas with sanctuary policies are also safer, as crime is significantly lower when compared to areas that actively enforce federal immigration laws using local resources. This is evident as there are on average 35 fewer crimes for every 10,000 people in areas with sanctuary policies due to a multitude of factors, from the allocation of local resources, community sentiment with law enforcement, an increased comfort with accessing public services, a willingness to cooperate with law enforcement, and general workforce participation. Similarly, the Major Chiefs Association and the International Association Chiefs of Police, which represent the largest law enforcement agencies in the world, and in the country specifically, have concluded that communities are safer when local law enforcement is not involved in the enforcement of federal immigration laws, as it has an unnerving effect on both legal and undocumented immigrants, who are then more likely to become victims of violent crime and will refrain from assisting law enforcement with criminal investigations. Now, despite the rhetoric and misinformation from our previous presidential administration, sanctuary policies help foster safer communities as opposed to danger and spikes of crime. As I close, I want to be clear that this bill will not and would not prevent ICE from enforcing federal immigration law in the state, as it would only prohibit our local and state law enforcement from coordinating with them and enforcing federal immigration laws themselves. Most importantly, I want to recognize the impact a bill like this will have on our communities across the state, because the implications, unfortunately, are very real. In my day job and in my personal life, I've worked with colleagues and friends who have been forced to helplessly watch as their parents and close family members who have lived in this state and in the country for decades are forced into deportation into a country that they're not even familiar with. After all, deportations have not ended under the Biden administration, nor will they. As discussed tonight on this bill and others that are to come, our undocumented immigrants are an essential part of our community and the state of Rhode Island, from the contributions to the economy to the socio-emotional value they add to our neighborhoods. They deserve to be protected. Thank you.
Any questions of the sponsor?
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Rep. Morales, I just really want to thank you for bringing forward this bill to support our undocumented community and keep all of our communities safer. And I love the idea, as others have done, other states have done, in codifying what ICE has already issued as a policy that they follow. So Immigration and Customs Enforcement already in places of worship and other places, schools, have a policy that do not enter. Of course, mostly under Trump, these policies were just thrown out the window. But I like the idea of our state taking that policy that even the Immigration and Customs Enforcement issued and codifying it into state law to protect our community. So I just want to say thank you for putting this forward, because it's a really, really important bill.
Thank you, Rep.
Thank you, Representative Felix. Any other questions of committee members? I'm not seeing any. So we have witnesses, 4 in number. First is David Felix. David? David, you're on the air.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I hope it's okay if I just testify for the 3 bills really quickly that I'm testifying for.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Belisse. I am the director for the Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty. I'm also testifying tonight as part of the Rhode Island Poor People's Campaign. Thank you for your time. First on Bill 5652, thank you to Rep. Morales for introducing it. Restricting ICE from sensitive locations. I think of 2 things when I think of this bill. First, as a coalition of faith leaders, we worry about people coming out to faith institutions as well as schools, courts. There's already a lot of fear in the immigrant community to receive services. We do not need to be restricting them anymore. People should be safe and feel free to come and worship and receive the services for their children. Secondly, we shouldn't be, we already criminalized the immigration system. We shouldn't do it anymore. We shouldn't be harassing people for just being here, trying to live a better life. A lot of the times the people that are stopped and harassed don't actually have immigration problems. We do not need to be ripping families away apart. Second bill I want to talk about is 5734. I thank you to Representative Geraldo for introducing it, which would bar landlords from asking whether or not someone is documented or not. We're in a pandemic. We do not need to worry about, creating more barriers for people to be housed, especially with homeless rates have doubled in the last 4 years in Rhode Island. We need to keep people housed and we need to keep people safe. I myself grew up undocumented, and it was for the caring of a local church that we were able to get an apartment. And I know that this is the right path for Rhode Island, where we're caring and taking care of our immigrant community. Lastly, for Bill 5305, thank you to Rep. Williams for always championing this bill, which provides driver's licenses for undocumented Rhode Islanders. I just want to say this bill is something we've been working on for a long time, and it makes a lot of sense. Not only does it make our roads safer by having everyone have insurance and everyone taking the right examination, but it also boosts the economy because it allows people to travel and go to work. It allows families to take their kids to school. A lot of states already done this. I think it's a really good move for Rhode Island. And I'll end by saying that throughout our different faith traditions for the Interfaith Coalition, we are taught to value the traveler, value the immigrant, value the visitor. And throughout all of our texts, we see people in stories of taking care of each other. And I think it's time that we start taking care of our vibrant, prosperous immigrant community that we have here in Rhode Island. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for allowing me to testify, and I hope all of you have a blessed day.
Thank you. Any questions of the witness? Seeing none. The next caller is Ashley Gomes. Ashley? Ashley?
Hi, yes.
Hi, Ashley. You're on the air. You can testify.
Hi. So my name is Ashley Gomez. I am an active member of Cystifier Rhode Island. It's a grassroots network of women of color focusing on economic empowerment and community-led action. I live in Providence, and I'm in support of Bill 5652 because I'm also the daughter of Mexican immigrants. I grew up having my mother walk me to school every day, and I was well aware that at a young age, she could be here one day and not the next. Having an undocumented parent is something that I wouldn't wish upon any child. It wasn't my choice, but it was my reality, right? And living with a constant fear was definitely something that impacted my mental health, my ability to focus in school. And so it's something that now my nieces and nephews, it's a fear that they have to grow up with. And I really think that children should be able to feel the safest at school, right? I think we can all agree on that, and everyone should be able to feel safe when we go to church, when we go to our kids' parent-teacher conferences, hopefully again soon. We should be able to feel safe in these spaces. And in addition to all of the things that Rep. Morales brought up in terms of the economy and how it also makes our roads safer. I'm sorry. So about I'm sorry, I was thinking about the other bill, but there's more literature about how this not only affects the health of folks, but more specifically the health of undocumented immigrants who are working here, who are also taking up resources. And if we're doing this to help immigrants, we're also going to help lessen the burden on our healthcare systems as a whole. Thank you. I urge you to vote in favor.
Any questions of the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. And the next witness will be Erin Papa. Erin, can you hear me?
Yes.
You may proceed with your testimony.
Oh, there's somebody still talking, I thought.
Hopefully not.
Oh.
Oh. There's a 20-second lag. I think it has something to do with turning off your volume on your computer.
Oh, okay. Hello?
Yes. Go ahead, proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Craven and members of the committee. My name is Erin Papa. I'm a resident of Providence, an educator, and I work alongside immigrants and refugees in our community. I wanted to testify in support of 3 bills, if that's okay right now.
Sure.
House Bills 5305, 5652, and 5734.
Go ahead.
My family has been in this state for many generations, and like many of you, I'm a descendant of immigrants who came here for a better life, started businesses, and made contributions to our state. And when they came, the process to becoming a U.S. resident was as simple as stepping off a boat. But today, this process is so much more complex, and it often leaves our immigrant neighbors in a limbo status, which prevents them from fully realizing their potential contributions to our society, our economy. But just as a reminder, none of these bills are really about immigration, and as state-level legislators, you don't have the power or authority to make decisions about immigration status. But I think you do have the power and authority to ensure that all Rhode Islanders feel safe and supported in our community, that they can live without fear that a landlord might discriminate based on their immigration status, or that ICE may enter their school or place of worship and take their children or parents away, which is a real fear, and that they can safely travel from home to work to school, to care for loved ones, friends, and neighbors. And I think that you all have the power and authority to do this, and I think the responsibility to ensure that all Rhode Islanders are treated with dignity and respect and granted these three bills, but specifically about the driving privileges. This would benefit all of us in the state, because we would have drivers on the road who are paying fees to the DMV. They have to purchase insurance, and that would ensure that really all of us are traveling to home, school, work safely. And there are many other states that have already passed this legislation, and we've been fighting for this for more than a decade here in Rhode Island. And it's been supported by state police, insurance companies, the DMV. I don't see any reason not to pass this now. So I'm hopeful that you will pass H5305 and the other two bills as well, to make our community safer and stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Any questions of the witness? Yes, Representative McAtee.
I don't have a question of the witness. I just want to ask the sponsor a question. How many states have passed legislation like this, Representative?
The ones that come immediately to mind are two of them, that being New York and California. At this point, most sanctuary-like policies are done at the county or municipal level.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, Doc.
So I'm going to interpret that response to mean that the states themselves have not passed a statewide sanctuary.
Aside from, again, New York and California, no. Other states have referred to municipal governments to do that.
So California and New York have passed statewide laws?
Correct.
One more, please,
Sure, go ahead.
Chairman. So in Rhode Island, I believe Providence has passed that kind of ordinance. And I believe my hometown of South Kingstown has done the same thing. I don't know, but do you know any other cities or towns that have passed that in Rhode Island?
Those are the exact two that come to mind, Representative, so I cannot name any others.
Okay, thank you.
Representative, please.
So you'd mentioned New York and California. Is this legislation modeled off of either one?
It is modeled off of New York's.
So is it exactly as close as possible, or what are the differences between New York's and the one you have presented before us today?
Yeah, so one of the key aspects in there is the provision of domestic violence, response to national security threats, and in regards to terrorism. The one in New York was broader.
Any other questions? Okay, we have one more witness, Stephen Brown from the ACLU. Steve, you're on the air.
Thank you again, Chair. If I may, like the other witnesses, if I could briefly address these three immigrant bills together.
You may.
Thank you. The ACLU of Rhode Island supports all three of these pieces of legislation. On 5652, Representative Morales' bill, as he and Representative Felix noted, what the core of this bill attempts to do is simply codify into law a policy that the Department of Homeland Security has had for many, many years, and that is deeming certain locations, hospitals, schools, et cetera, as sensitive locations where ICE raids or things of that sort should not take place. And it's just a matter of both compassion and common sense. You don't want to discourage people from going to the hospital if they're sick. You want to ensure that children who have the right to go to school and get an education can do that without fear of parents being subject to ICE agents coming out of nowhere as they go to school. So we strongly support that effort. The driver's license bill of Representative Williams is one that the ACLU has also supported for many, many years. We join in the comments that have been given by the other witnesses as to why this is a practical bill. It's a safe public safety bill, and we hope that this is the year that the committee acts favorably on it. And then finally, we also want to express our support for 5734, which is the bill that would ban landlords from inquiring about a tenant or prospective tenant's immigration or citizenship status. We know that this happens right now, and there's no question in our mind that inquiries like that are really just a proxy for discriminating against individuals based on their looks, their ethnicity, their surname. It simply should not be happening. It's no business of a landlord to be asking those questions. So we hope that the committee will give a favorable consideration to all three of these bills. We think they are in the public interest. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Steve Brown from the members of the committee? I don't see any, so that would conclude testimony on this particular piece of legislation. Oh, you have a question?
Sorry, Chairman. I just wanted to mention, I did want to fact check myself. There are actually 11 states that have sanctuary laws in place, not just California and New York. Those are just the two that I was modeling this bill off of. And if I may, they are California, Colorado, Connecticut, our neighbor, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington.
Great, thank you. Yes, Dr. Covesi has a follow-up, Representative Morales.
So those states have statewide,
Correct.
not just municipal.
Correct.
Okay, that concludes testimony. Very good job. Thank you. On House Bill 5652, which brings us to